Great morning, world. Welcome to another 10-minute Rise Up with Dragon. This is called the 10-minute Rise Up to a Great Day series. This new season and series is the latest creation and commitment from the Dragon. It's been inspired by the unpredictability of how much time that we have to live our best life and the question of what will you think, say, do, and matter in the last 10 minutes of your life. So enjoy a new shortened structure in the Rise Up with Dragon podcast that you can use every day to rise up and make every 10 minutes of your life count. And as always, this episode has been sponsored by Karma Mind.
Get into the float state with Karma Mind meditations and gear.
Great morning, world! Welcome to the Rise Up with Dragon podcast with your host, Dragon!
Great morning, world. Welcome to another 10-minute Rise Up with Dragon. Just as a interesting reference point, this is like almost 13 years of doing this. And it's just been a wonderful journey. And I always like to take a kind of a reality check of how long I've been committed to doing something and the value. You know, the juice is definitely worth the squeeze. So today's 10-minute Rise Up is called Minimalistic. A lot of you know that Chicken and I practice minimalism. And it's a really interesting topic that I think a lot of people, whether they want to practice it or not, can benefit from as we embark on this journey and look to advance and not get distracted. So minimalistic. So the basic premise of minimizing is to practice shedding or getting rid of the things that are of no use and value in connection with the things and life that you both desire and matter most. So that's the premise of it. Thus, the first step in practicing minimalism is identifying and creating value to these things with absolute certainty. What I mean by that is the first step before you minimize is to decide what matters most and the things that you want with absolute certainty. You have to get crystal clear in that, because then the next step is to decide what pertains to it, what applies and what doesn't. So for me, the concept of minimalism was birthed actually in all my practice and acknowledgement in Buddhism of the nature of suffering. So it's interesting to look and say, how does suffering have anything to do with minimizing? Well, the first thing you should think about is who wants to suffer, right? So it's about removing yourself from things that make you suffer. Now, suffering can go in many, many different directions, but Buddha described the nature of suffering as desire. Grab onto that. The nature of our suffering is desire. So the want and perceived need of having more. Wouldn't you agree? I would say no. And what's interesting is the very act of removing desire is a desire in itself. We can actually desire to have less desire. So, you can get all crazy with that. So this game of minimizing our lives to living in a space only surrounded by the things that are of use, it gets all screwed up by our strategy in determining what things stay and what things go. That's where the challenge is. So the only effective approach that has worked for us is to start by radically accepting that the only person that can call these shots is you. The only person that can call the shots of what stays and what goes and what matters and what doesn't is you. So in that statement right there, we recognize sometimes we're persuaded by outside forces. So the acceptance that our perceptions also are always subject to change. Radically accept that. It's okay to change your perceptions. But the key is to be conscious and aware of this process that's going on, including the changes, and also, really important, what is motivating the change. If you want to make a change in your perception of what's important and what's not, I recommend, and this is what the interface response system is about, is recognizing what's triggering that change. So if you're being persuaded to acquire material things, as well as the feelings associated with things like fame, honor, and significance, I assume in that moment that you're wanting to acquire those things, you're doing so with the notion at that time that those things are necessary. So that's an interesting thing to consider. Whether you do something stupid or smart, at the time that you do it, you think it's a good idea. However, when looking at your true desired destination, which is how we began this in life, the desired state that really matters most to you, think about that for a second, lock into that. The reality that you would in fact choose to acknowledge in the last 10 minutes of your life, the motivation for these 10-minute rise ups, you may start throwing some of these bags that you've decided were necessary off of the plane when you focus on that. So there's a skill set and a strategy, is to focus on the desired state and decide what bags stay and what bags go. So minimizing your life from the things that won't matter when your hand is forced by the urgency of time. Let me say that again. Minimizing your life from the things that won't matter when your hand is forced by the urgency of time. This is the glory of minimizing. It is not about going without stuff. It's about only going with the things and the people that matter most and support your desired state and destination for your bigger life. A place of neither too little or too much. We call this sometimes just right. Buddha refers to this sweet spot in the middle way, the place in between extreme poverty and luxury. Think about that for a second. We're either running away from poverty. Sometimes I find like we're running towards poverty if you have a poverty mentality, or running towards luxury. But in reality, you probably want to experience the spot in between, the sweet spot. It's a more balanced and sustainable lifestyle that's focused on the important things, one that can only be determined by you and nobody else. There's the key. It's the only time you think that your present experience is not the right spot to be, you're probably in a comparative reality and thinking, I need more because everybody else has more. What do you truly, truly want, need, and must have in your life? Very important. So by removing certain things and people from your life, you are no longer distracted by them and away from the things that you truly appreciate and desire. It's okay to want and appreciate. That's a very, very important lesson I learned in life. It's okay to want and appreciate. Selfish is not a bad word. In fact, we don't think, say, or do anything without there being a perceived value. Think that one through. A life of purpose and meaning, perhaps, is something that you might want and appreciate. It's much easier to focus on a destination and a path that leads to that destination when it is the only thing that you care about. So I end today by saying, what is it that matters most to you? What do you care about? And in that space of identifying where you want to go and what you care about, what do you no longer care about? What no longer applies in that journey? So I love and appreciate you. This has been another 10-minute Rise Up, Minimalistic. I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope you feel the urgency and fragility of time today, and you squeeze everything there is out of this orange that we call this day. Have a wonderful day.